let's talk about Ohio State, Penn State. This was the top billing for the weekend. Maybe not as exciting as it would have been pre-Penn State losing in overtime to Indiana the week prior, but still a pretty big deal.
Sure. Huge.
And look, Ohio State's just really good. They're really good. That's why they were the heavy favorite going into this one. They didn't disappoint. They jump out to an early 14-0 lead, I think, before we were done with our live stream.
Yeah.
Because we ran over a little bit.
Yeah.
And by the time I got downstairs to actually watch, it was 14-0. And they didn't really look back from that point. Justin Fields was just outstanding. Missed, 3 throws?
Mm-hmm.
Something like that on the night. If it wasn't 3, if it was more, it certainly only felt like 3, if that. 318, 4 touchdowns. A monster game out wide for Chris Olave with 2 touchdowns. Garrett Wilson had 11 catches. And then a nice day for Master Teague on the ground as well. On the Penn State side, Dan, it's a good news, bad news situation.
Okay.
The good news is, you remember how off-season we pondered who might be that complementary weapon through the air outside Baby Gronk, Pat Freiermuth?
Correct.
It seems like Jahan Dotson is stepping up.
For sure it does.
That's a really good sign. The bad news is pretty much everything else.
Yeah, the bad news is you need to build the entire roster out of Jahan Dotson. That's the Jahan
bad
Dotson,
news is everything else. And we like to play the Kirk Shiraka sound.
Kirk Shiraka.
And I do think he's a good man for the job. It just has not materialized yet. The offense feels like it's all over the place. They can't run. Sean Clifford, I'm sorry, is still a liability back there. He is not confident in the pocket.
Right.
He was fine in this game. To be fair, he's fine. But they just need to get more from that offensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
If they're going to try to rise to that level of an Ohio State. I don't know if anybody in the East or anybody in the Big Ten is going to be able to rise to that level. It feels, or the country,
yeah.
Right. It feels like that gap, at least within the confines of the Big Ten, has widened to some extent. And there's a pretty fair amount of cushion between Ohio State and the next best team. We could talk more about the next best team and where we come down on the next best team in the Big Ten and the Big Ten East as we go through this show. But it was very apparent watching this football game that Ohio State was a better team, that Penn State still is working through a lot of issues, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And, it's onward and upward for the Buckeyes. And frankly, a bit of a worrying circumstance for Penn State where it might go from here.
And everybody that plays Ohio State potentially. So yes, all of what you said is 100% accurate, 100% correct. What are you supposed to do against Ohio State at this point? They have an NFL quarterback. We question their performance along the lines and against the run and running the ball themselves against Nebraska. Well, guess what, Ty? Something we always talk about, week 1 to week 2 improvement. It happened. It happened for Ohio State. Which defense right now, I saw this, I don't know, it was Ari Wasserman, somebody. I thought it was a good point. What defense in the country has the dudes to cover everything that Ohio State can throw at you with an NFL quarterback in Justin Fields? Because make no mistake, Justin Fields looks comfortable enough to be considered an NFL quarterback today. Today, the day after the Penn State game.
Georgia?
Maybe, but here's the problem with Georgia.
Maybe Georgia?
You're trotting out 14 points against Kentucky and Stetson Bennett. You're going to leave your defense out to dry against Ohio State, and they're going to wear down. So Ohio State improved in all of the ways that you would like them to improve. And yes, they had to weather a couple of dude plays from Jahan Dotson, but that's fine. He is going to do that against everybody Penn State plays, probably. Penn State's thin at running back. The offensive line got overwhelmed by a suddenly pretty scary Ohio State front that has gotten healthier and better.
That's true.
And the fact that Penn State only lost by 13 with an opportunity to go down single digits late, because they had the ball with a couple minutes left, right? Driving.
Yep.
Maybe we're going to look at that by the end of the year, if there is an end of the year, as not so bad. Not so bad against this Ohio State team. So
it's true.
That was the big takeaway to me, that when you improve like Ohio State did, when you can spread the ball and hand the ball to guys like Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave and Njiba, God, I forget the hyphenation for the Ohio State receiver, Smith Njiba, sorry. There's just so much you can do. And then Justin Fields started finding the tight end as well. So I think all things considered, to beat Ohio State and to not be anywhere near as talented as Ohio State, and Penn State is that team. They're talented, but not as in the neighborhood of Ohio State. Like one of those NCAA 14 seeds in March Madness, you got to hit all your threes. The problem for Penn State in that first half is they only hit threes, which is not as fun.
They only hit threes
on the football field. So I would also like to shout out whoever directed this game for ABC, ESPN, who after I think a Penn State touchdown did the wide flash of Beaver Stadium like you would as if it were full and rocking, and they just showed empty seats.
Yeah.
It was very, very odd, and I loved it.
Yeah, a sign of the times here in 2020. Yeah. You're right about Ohio State. They're very good. It's what I said at the top. They're very good. They're very good.
I might go as far as excellent.
I might go that far as well.